All right, so wanted to introduce myself here. So again, we all know that Ted Stevens is this wonderful air cargo nexus because you've been hearing it all summer long as they've been flying over your house. But again, we're number 2 in North America and number 5 in the world. I've got about 25 flights a day to Chicago, and those are pretty much cargo freighters, 20 to Hong Kong and 20 to Shanghai. And then I've also have the location of having a UPS base, a FedEx base, and a DHL base. So if you're trying to locate business here, it's a really good place to distribute from. And the airport is a foreign trade zone, so we do have the ability to, host cargo goods and warehouse them without having to pay a bunch of duties on it. So this is a nice little picture of kind of what's happening in the air on a daily basis. So I took this a couple of weeks ago, and you can see all of this flow that it comes into Ted Stevens from Asia. But this is all cargo planes. We have about 100 747s a day that come into the airport. Again, this is a lot of connections between Asia and North America. And why is that? So Anchorage is strategically located. We're about 4,400 miles, nautical miles from all of these major cargo gateways. And that's a magic number because the large cargo aircraft, that's their range. So if they're fully loaded, that's about as far as they can fly. So we connect Hong Kong with Memphis and all the U.S. The only large cargo gateway that we can't touch is Dubai. But all the rest of them, even Frankfurt up here in Amsterdam, we're within that flight time and distance. So it's Accelerate Alaska. So let's figure out what we can do to accelerate Alaska. And obviously the airport is very good at accelerating the cargo facility, but let's take a look at the passengers, what we can do. So we are trying to do a model where Iceland Air has been very successful. So if you look at Iceland Air right here, they're this beautiful place in between Europe and North America. And they will offer you the ability to fly from Europe, land in Iceland, stay there for a couple days, check out Iceland, and then continue on to North America. Really good destination kind of marketing for them. And then if you look at where Reykjavik is located, it's in the same pretty much latitude as Anchorage. So we're trying to emulate that so we can do this same thing between Asia and North America. Iceland Air did so well that they've almost quintupled the passengers through that airport. And then they've also actually are so good they've inspired a competitor. So now there's actually 2 airlines in Iceland that are doing this same concept. So again, we're looking to try and to get that going. Our distances are a little bit greater, but it is something that we're working. So we wanted to look at global air travel, what's going to happen in the future. So this is from Airport Council International, and passenger traffic is forecast to double in the next 15 years. But if you look at Asia, it's going to explode. You've got a lot of people over there, and a lot of people are starting to get some money, and when they get the money, they want to go on vacation, they want to travel, and they want to do business. So you're looking at huge growth potential over here. You got some good growth over here in Latin America and North America. So, great. So what is this? Is this the secret plan for the new Anchorage International Airport? It is not. Is that one? No, that's not. This is actually the new Mexico City Airport. So Mexico City's airport's got, it's over capacity. It's jammed full of people right now. They're building a brand new airport there for 125 million passengers. And the great thing about that airport is about a mile, it's over a mile above sea level. The other airport right here, this is the Beijing airport, the new one. That's designed for 100 million passengers, and they're actually going to keep the old one. So they've got a $100 million passenger airport that exists, and then they're going to add another $100 million passenger airport. Great for us because you can't get there from there. So from current technology does not allow you to fly from Asia to Latin America. So we actually make a lot of sense as a destination to stop there. So I did what's called a range ring, and this is Shanghai. So if you look at Shanghai and your passenger carrier airlines, generally they'll fly about 8,000 nautical miles. That's a really long one. There's some that go a little bit farther, but this is a good rule of thumb. But you'll see Latin America is in the dark because of the fact that you can't fly from Asia to Latin America. And if you look at a place like Bogota, that's even higher up in the air. So Bogota is the second or third busiest airport in Latin America. It's at 8,000 feet above sea level. So Bogota's range is really limited. But if you look at these Latin American markets, you've got 44 million travelers going through Mexico City, 37 through Sao Paulo, and 30 through Bogota. So these are big connection points for Latin American traffic. So we want to connect these two. So again, we offer the ability because of the Great Circle route. So you're flying over Anchorage pretty much. You know, if you're going to fly from, it's interesting to know, if you actually flew from Beijing to Mexico City and then fly Beijing, Anchorage, Mexico City, it's exactly 1 mile difference in flying time. So you would see the plane 30,000 feet above you if they could make it there. So trying to go on there and make that work. So we did the range ring on 8,000 miles from Anchorage. And if you actually land your airplane here, you can go everywhere in the world except for the southern tip of South Africa. So there's really not much going to happen down there from our perspective. So we touch everything. But it is one of those things, you're going to see Asian traffic can actually fly up over Anchorage, refuel, connect. They can connect people on the U.S. domestic carrier, so you can give people to Alaska Airlines, Delta, United, and get them into the United States. But then they have the ability to go into Latin America. They could go actually to destinations like Miami or Florida, which currently does no service to Asia. So again, it's one of those things where it makes a lot of sense to kind of stop here to go to other places. The other thing that we've got is what we call the fuel sweet spot. So a large passenger airplane, when it flies long distances, if it's going to go 16-hour flight, that's going to take, they take a lot of gasoline to basically fly the people from one destination to the other, but then they also have to take a whole lot of gasoline or jet fuel to actually fly the jet fuel to make you go there. So an 8-hour flight, a 16-hour flight, if you broke it into 2 8-hour segments, you get 20% more fuel efficiency. And that's because of the fact that when you fly 8 hours, you just got enough gas on the plane to get the people where they need to go, and then you can refuel, and then you can fly again. So if you look at the sweet spot, that entire section of that Bill just told you about all the people that are growing in China, they're all in that sweet spot. So we can hit those markets and efficiently transfer people here because, again, as fuel prices rise for airlines, it makes it more economical for them to stop here because of the fact that they're only flying 8 hours, versus this scenario, this is the current situation, what's going on. So I'll give you an example here. So if you look at Guangzhou, there's an airline that's flying Guangzhou, Vancouver, Mexico City. And if you look at what they do is they go over here and they're flying for 11 hours and 43 minutes to go from Guangzhou to Vancouver. So if we use 8 hours as that magic number where things become inefficient, that means that for 3 hours and 43 minutes, they're flying inefficiently. Whereas if they came to Anchorage in 9 hours and 18 minutes, it's only 1 hour and 18 minutes. So you're saving some fuel on that. But then you get the real extreme examples where you would go Shanghai to Tijuana to Mexico City. So there's airlines right now that are flying this route where they're going and going, their way to get to Mexico City is actually to stop at Tijuana and then fly to Mexico City, or one of them actually is doing Monterey too. But the thing about that destination is it's a 12-hour and 3-minute flight initially. So that means they're flying inefficiently for 4 hours and 3 minutes. Whereas if they do that stop in Anchorage, 7 hours and 15 minutes here, they're never flying inefficiently. The flight from here is efficient, and then when we go to Mexico, it's about a 7.5-hour flight too. So again, we're in that magic range where that makes things efficient for the airlines. So we're also looking again for these Fifth Freedom flights. So we've got a couple of these that are going along. So we've got people flying from Manila. We actually have a very large Filipino community in Anchorage and have a lot of information where we can we can actually sell a lot of tickets. So Manila, Anchorage, instead of Manila, Vancouver. That's a situation where we're going to look. Other one that we're seeing is Singapore, Manchester, Houston. This is actually 1,500 miles longer than if they were to go through Anchorage. So it's, again, a market that we're looking to try and do. And then, again, that's wide bodies. Narrow bodies, we also have the same thing. So these airlines have all bought narrow bodies. This A321neo LR is a 4,000 nautical mile range. That gets you the ability to run narrow bodies on thin routes. Thin routes would be like Beijing to Ottawa. Chinese are very interested in having flag carriers in nations' capitals, but there's not a lot of people running between Asia and Ottawa. But with that narrow body, you might be able to do that. And again, there's always the ability to pitch Alaska. So we got new data from Visit Anchorage. Alaska is actually number 5 for coolest destinations to go in the United States when you talk to these international travelers. So we got to play it up a little bit. And again, we also want to say, okay, we want to make these things happen. Well, if you look at Mexico, they actually want to come here. And then the Chinese and the Asians. So if we can make that connection point, not only are they doing their other stuff, but they're actually getting the Alaska tourism, and that opens up markets for us. You can have direct service to Mexico City to be able to get Mexicans, plus you have the ability to get Asians through one of those destinations. And then we also, for the last kind of closer, we're convenient. The one thing that we know about the West Coast is there's never going to be a runway built at LA, another runway, another one at San Francisco, or there's never going to be another one built in Seattle. So in 7 hours and 20 minutes from Seoul, you're here in Anchorage, or you're still here. In 11 hours and 20 minutes, you've actually landed at Anchorage, got on a plane at Lake Hood, flown the ski plane to Denali, landed on the glacier, walked around on the glacier and having a great time, or you've just landed in LA and you're standing in the customs line. And then if we look at what happens after thankfully you finally cleared customs at LA, you've actually, during that time, you've driven the Turnagain Arm, gone to the 7 glaciers, and you're having dinner up there, versus now you've just gotten to the curb and you're having a 45-minute wait for your Uber car. So this is the kind of stuff that we're trying to all put together so that we can make Alaska accelerate.